This meeting of the Aurora City Council is hereby called to order for September 24th, 2019. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Yamas. Alderman Garza.
Here.
Alderman Basiacos.
Here.
Alderman Denal. Alderman Franco. Alderman Seville.
Here.
Alderman Hart Burns. Alderman Smith. Here. Alderman Bug. Here. Alderman Lopshi. Here. Alderman Jenkins.
Here.
Alderman O'Connor. Here. Mayor Irvin.
Present. Please rise. We have a moment of silence in honor of our active servicemen and servicewomen as well as our veterans. Please remain standing as we say the Pledge of Allegiance, to be followed by the invocation led by Father Oscar Cortez of St. Rita's of Acacia Church. Moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, if you'd like to take that mic right there.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. The Apostle St. Paul, in his letter to the Timothy, chapter 2, verses 1 to 8, says, makes a special request to all of us citizens to do something for the well-being of our communities. He says, "Beloved, first of all, I ask that supplications, prayers, petitions, and thanksgiving be offered for everyone, for kings and for all in authority, that we may lead a quiet and tranquil life in all devotion and dignity. It is my wish then that in every place the men should pray, lifting up holy hands, without anger or argument. Let us pray. Almighty ever-living God, infinite wisdom and creator of all, to you the glory now and forever. To you we raise our hands in thanksgiving for your many blessings in our lives, for our life, friendship, our family, work, and our community. To you we raise our hands to pray for our rulers and authorities. Bless them, Almighty God. Give them success in their decisions, charity in dealing with others, compassion for those in need, and a great spirit of service to perform with joy and happiness the task entrusted to them. Protect them from any danger. Be their shield and strength. I ask you, Lord, to bless each and every one present here this evening. We pray for the mayor of our city, Richard Ebren, the aldermen and staff. Bless them today and forever. Grant us, Lord, to live in peace and tranquility. Help us, O Lord, so that each one of us, our families, and all citizens do what is necessary to achieve the peace and tranquility that we all long for. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
The Father, and the Son, and the Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Father. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the
Second.
Tuesday, September 10th, 2019 City Council meeting? Motion made by Alderman Hart Burns, seconded by Alderman Garza. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries by voice vote. Is there a motion to approve the appointment of a sergeant at
Second.
arms at this meeting? There's been a motion made by Alderman Hart Burns, seconded by Alderman Jenkins. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries by voice vote. Mr. Muhammad, do we have any presentations for this evening?
Yes, sir. We have a couple of presentations this evening, including an unveiling. That's why we have a portrait in front of you this evening. We'll move that shortly. If the mayor can come down, our first proclamation, it's National Suicide Prevention and Action Month. And we're so honored to have a leader and a voice for suicide prevention and action right here. It's a hometown Auroran. He's also an alderman for the United City of Yorkville, who has a city council meeting going on right now. So we're going to put him up first so he can get over there by 7 p.m. If you can please join us in welcoming Alderman Joel Frieders.
It is my honor to read this proclamation, National Suicide Prevention and Action Month, September 2019. Whereas September is known around the United States as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, most of us are quite aware of suicide. National Suicide Prevention plus Action Month is intended to help promote and give attention to the suicide prevention services available to us in our community. The goal is to speak openly about the topic of suicide to help erase the stigma surrounding it and to direct those in need to the appropriate support services. And whereas suicidal thoughts can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, race, orientation, income level, religion, or background, and according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, the AFSP, more than 47,000 people died by suicide in the year 2017. And whereas suicide is the 10th leading cause of death among adults in the U.S., and nearly 20% of all suicides were completed by people ages 45 to 54. And whereas Aurora, Illinois is no different than any other community in this country, but chooses to publicly state and place our full support behind local educators, mental health professionals, athletic coaches, PAC leaders, police officers, and parents as partners in supporting our community and simply being available to one another. And whereas every member of our community should understand that throughout life's struggles, we all need the occasional reminder that we are all fighting our own battles. And whereas I encourage all residents to take the time to check in with their family, friends, and neighbors on a regular basis and to honestly communicate their appreciation for their existence by any gesture they deem appropriate. A simple phone call, a message, a handshake, or a hug can go a long way toward helping someone realize that suicide is just not the answer. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Richard C. Irvin, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2019 as National Suicide Prevention and Action Month in the city of Aurora. Good luck on your travels to the United City of Yorkville. That's really the name.
That's really the name. That's the official name. We are also honored this year, City Council and community, to celebrate the centennial, the 100th year anniversary of the American Association of University Women, the Aurora Area Branch. Since 1919, these women have been leading the charge for women empowerment and equity. Please give a round of applause to Branch President Tracy Sherman Falcone and branch members as they make their way down. Celebrating 100 years here in the city of Aurora, producing some of the most pronounced political figures here in our city for the last 100 years. Their action has been certainly recognized. The mayor joined them on Saturday, the 21st, for their luncheon, and we're honored to have them with us tonight as we present their proclamation.
And before I read the proclamation, also at the luncheon, I became a member. I'm about to become a member once I get an application. I'm still waiting for that application. And I believe we call it one of the tribe. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely.
The Office of the Mayor, Richard C. Irvin, proclamation, AAUW, Aurora Area Branch, 100th anniversary, September 21st, 2019. Whereas the American Association of University Women, AAUW, was founded in 1881 and is the nation's leading voice promoting equity and education for women and girls through research, education, and advocacy. And whereas the AAUW Aurora Area Branch was founded in 1919 and is celebrating its centennial and 100 years of service to leadership in the Aurora area. And whereas among its many achievements, the Aurora Area Branch count its efforts to elect women to local offices as one of the most notable, beginning in 1950 with the successfully electing the first woman to local school board, Elaine Heggie, former branch president. Whereas the branch also is proud of its members who have been or are current statewide leaders, including State Senator Linda Holmes, State Representative Stephanie Kifowit, and former Representative Linda Chapalavia, and former State Representative Suzanne Deutschler, who has been a member of the branch for 6 decades and had the Orchard Road interchange on I-88 recently named in her honor. And whereas the branch raises funds for AAUW's fellowship and grant programs and the AAUW Legacy Advocacy Fund, while also leading the AAUW Action Network and hosting books by night and movie groups and many other initiatives. Now, therefore, I, Richard C. Irvin, salute the AAUW Aurora Area Branch for a century, let me say that one more time, for a century of service, congratulating the branch on its 100th anniversary, and do hereby proclaim today, the day that I read this initially, September 21st, 2019, as AAUW Aurora Area Branch Day in the city of Aurora. Please give it a round of applause.
You should be, all right, but get there, you're small.
Give another round of applause. I'm going to ask the mayor to stay the podium, and I'm going to ask our city engineer to join him down at the mic as well, Mr. Ken Schroep. We're going to flip. We have a presentation to the mayor and to the city of Aurora. We're joined today by a representative from FEMA, federal representative of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, who is here to present a special award to Mayor Irvin and the city of Aurora. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Eric Kugluski.
Mayor Irvin, members of the City Council, thank you for allowing me a few minutes today to highlight an important accomplishment the City of Aurora has achieved. My name is Eric Kugleski. I'm the Floodplain Management and Insurance Branch Chief of FEMA Region 5. As we have seen this past year and so many other years, flooding is an all too common hazard that communities must face. While over 22,000 communities across the country have joined the National Flood Insurance Program as a means to mitigate their risks to flooding, only a select few have chosen to go above and beyond the minimum requirements to assure their community is more resilient to the risk of flooding. These communities are recognized by the National Flood Insurance Program under the Community Rating System. I'm honored to be here today to inform you that the City of Aurora is now one of those communities recognized by the Community Rating System. By taking on activities like preserving open space and adopting and enforcing higher development standards, the city has demonstrated they have gone beyond the minimums required by the National Flood Insurance Program. These activities are only possible with the support of this City Council and you, Mayor Irvin. It also is the result of the many city staff who day in and day out issue and review permits and inspect development for compliance with the regulations, staff who answer residents' questions about the risk to flooding, and those who respond when flooding does occur. I would also like to thank Public Works Director Ken Schroth and CRS Coordinator Mark Phillips for taking on the task of administering the CRS program for the city. Thanks to all these combined efforts, the residents of Aurora can now enjoy up to a 15% reduction in their National Flood Insurance Program flood insurance premiums. But more importantly, they should know that they live in a community which has taken proactive steps to reduce the impact of flooding. Therefore, Mayor Irvin, on behalf of the National Flood Insurance Program and FEMA Region 5, I would like to present a plaque to the City of Aurora in recognition of achieving a Class 7 in the National Flood Insurance Program Community Rating System. However you want to do it. Oh, okay.
Wow, this is great. Another round of applause.
Thank you, Eric. I'd like to give a special thank you to Mark Phipps. As Eric stated, he's our CRS coordinator. We brought him on board from the private sector. He went through this with other communities previously, and we leaned on him a lot to get us through this program. But as Eric said, this is truly a team effort. Thank you to Building and Permits for basically making sure we stay on top of all the floodplain permits that come in. Thank you to the GIS department for all the mapping tools that they give us. Thank you for the zoning department, because half of the points we received are for open space, and that comes back full circle to the mayor's office and city council as well. Your support over the years for dedicating open space got us almost half of our points that we needed to get to this point. So it truly is a group effort, and I thank everybody for it.
One more round of applause.
Thank you and congratulations to the entire team. Tonight we're doing a second unveiling of a portrait that we initially unveiled on Saturday evening. It's So Alderman Garza has seen it already. So we should and Alderman Llamas isn't here tonight. He's on his honeymoon, so that's why it's here. But tonight we're celebrating arts in Aurora, and an artist who has recently moved to our city, who is really helping to push the arts forward in Aurora. If you can please join the mayor, please welcome Andrew Zabella Zabelin. Andrew's a professional artist, a member of the American Impressionist Society, and he's received awards from international artists for his fine art. He is currently exhibiting in several galleries and museums internationally and in the United States. His works hang in private collections all over the world. Some notable collectors include Michael Franzese, Steve Rossi, Shannon Mather, Oleg Vedov, and Joan Borston. He creates artwork and designs for all variety of commercial and residential spaces. He's an expert draftsman and painter with a full cadre of styles ranging from classical, Art Deco, Art Nouveau, and contemporary. He does exceptional decorative painting, trompe-l'oeil, murals, wall sculptures, mosaics, and fall finishes. He also is an exceptional live portrait painter. He has in the past conducted studio classes specializing in advanced portraiture and the fine painting technique a la prima. Andrew lives in the Artisan Lofts here in downtown Aurora, the Dunham Arts Center, and he initially met the mayor looking at some of his artwork when we did the ribbon cutting a couple months ago. And he wanted to come and meet the mayor and offer to paint a special portrait for him. We're excited that Andrew not only lives here, he will host a special showing of his artwork right here at City Hall for First Fridays in December, Friday, December 6th. It will be the first time City Hall is open for First Fridays in the last 3 years, and we're looking forward to hosting his art show. And so tonight, Andrew, on behalf of the mayor, we'd like to present you with the Mayor's Award of Excellence for your work. If we could give him a round of applause. He does this for free. He did this for free to support the mayor and to support the city. We'd also like to do an unveiling of a special portrait that he did, again, from Bono, to show his support for the city. So we ask the Mayor and Andrew to step right on over. We're going to do another countdown. You have to lift up just a little bit forward. All right, we can count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. The portrait of Mayor Richard C.
You know, I just had to say the first time that I saw this portrait, it appeared as though I was looking in the mirror. You are so extremely talented that, you know, I'm just amazed by the artwork and what you produce with your bare hands, you know, and just your eyes. And I really appreciate you you portraying me and painting this huge portrait of me. I think it's taller than me. But I just want to thank you for being a part of the Aurora community, you know, being a part of our arts community and helping push that arts notion forward, you know. And over at the Artisan Lofts, we have a number of artists, musical artists, artists that paint, you know, artists that you know, that sing, you know, and I've come in contact with a number of them, and meeting you and seeing what you can do and your talents, you know, I think has made me a better person. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your willingness, and I look forward to, and I don't know if anyone has seen the other paintings that they did when the Artisan Lofts first opened, what he had on display, and the amazing artwork and the crisp, I mean, it looks like a real person almost standing there, you know, and even the desk is shining with like the glass top that I have. How you do that, I have no idea. I can draw stick men. That's about all, and they don't even look good. But I just want to thank you again. I really appreciate you being part of the Aurora community and bringing some more talent, some more arts to the city of Aurora.
Big round of applause for Andrew. That concludes our presentations.
presentations being concluded, Madam Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to offer public comment?
Yes, we do, Mayor.
Okay, can you read the preamble?
Sure. Pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, all persons shall be permitted an opportunity to address public officials under the rules established and recorded by the council. Under our rules, any person may address the city council for up to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for all public comment. No person other than the timekeeper or the chair for the purpose of maintaining order may interrupt a person recognized for public comment during his or her comments. Members of the city council shall not engage with nor respond to a speaker during the time set aside for public comment. Staff is directed to follow up with members of the public with respect to any concerns raised during public comment within the scope of the city's authority following the adjournment of this meeting. The first speaker is Mike Mueller.
Mr. Mueller, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you everyone for the opportunity to speak tonight and to be here. I'd just like to say, in light of the proposal to put a playground in the McCarty Park area, I'd like to talk about the RSOs at Wayside. After all, the playground will be used against them eventually. These men have paid for their crimes. When do they get to stop paying for the wrongs they've done? If God, the originator of the laws these men have broken, has forgiven them, we need to also. It's easy to make a judgment about people we don't know. I know many of them personally. God is doing a work of transformation in them. It's to everyone's benefit to help these men. When we don't want to believe they've changed, it says 2 things about us. We can continue to justify our contempt, or should I say intolerance, toward them, and we can continue to excuse the lack of change in our own lives because we're off the hook then. God doesn't change people, right? It's ironic that these men who are striving to be free from sexual sin are under attack. It's not like they're waving flags and banners and trying to parade their sin and celebrate it. They want to be free from it. And I stand with them, and I think we should give them a chance. Thank you.
Next speaker, clerk.
Sharon Slaughter.
Ms. Slaughter, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and everyone up there for allowing me to speak today. I am a lifelong Aurora resident, and in 63 years, I have never heard a news story about a Wayside resident causing problems in our community, so if that has happened, I've missed it. Wayside isn't there just to house people who need a place to stay. Wayside is there to transform people's lives, to send them out in better condition than when they came in, to put them through intense Bible study, job training, and other programs to prepare them to go back out into society as law-abiding citizens. If we evict the current 19 sex offenders out into the streets before they're ready, then yes, they could pose a problem or a threat to our community. We need to respect the long-established, successful work that Wayside has been doing for decades. This is God's work. Wayside's role in our community is essential and makes me proud to say I'm from Aurora, Illinois. They represent my values, the value of helping people, of believing in them, and of giving them a second chance. Most of us have done things we regret in the past, and we have had second chances. I know very well that some people cannot be reformed. I have a son who's in prison for life right now in South Dakota, so I know not everybody can. But we can't judge a book by its cover or a person by their past behavior. Only God can do that. We need to give each resident at the Wayside an opportunity to change. I hope you don't put the playground equipment in. I hope instead that you continue to support and respect the work that Wayside is doing and allow them to continue on their course without limits on who they can minister to. In closing, Jesus said to a prostitute one day, "Your sins are forgiven. Go and sin no more." I believe this sums up what Wayside is doing with their residents. And after he spoke to the prostitute, he turned to all the men holding stones ready to stone her to death for her sin, and he said, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." I propose to you that no one in this room, including myself, is worthy of casting that first stone toward a resident of Wayside. Thank you.
Next speaker, clerk.
Marianne Vincent.
Ms. Vincent, you have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. As many know, Wayside Cross has had a successful ministry for 92 years, lives transformed by the gospel of Jesus Christ. This ministry happens in large part from volunteers from our various churches in Aurora. Many things can't function well without volunteers. And according to the Aurora Police Department, there have been no, I repeat, no recorded problems in a 92-year history. Remarkable, truly remarkable. There are plans to add a playground to McCarty Park, which may put approximately 19 Wayside men on the street. Is that safer for Aurora's residents? I have 4 reasons why adding a playground to McCarty Park is unnecessary. 1, Aurora has a huge debt already. And I realize half of this would be paid by a grant, which I am urging you to vote no on the grant. There is a brand new playground 3 blocks away. 3, Aurora has aging playground equipment. If there are extra playground monies somewhere, let's use them to replace the playground equipment. This is a liability issue to have aging playground equipment. Aurora doesn't need to add more debt by smashing a playground into beautiful McCarty Park with its large trees, sidewalks, park benches, and the splash pad. How is Aurora's debt going to be paid off? I was wondering, is it going to be from taxes from recreational marijuana? There will be a high price for selling marijuana. I highlighted a few of that on the handout. We can learn from states, Colorado is quoted there. It's a gateway drug to more drugs. Ask any heroin user. Heavy marijuana smoking by teenagers are 60% less likely to graduate from high school. And they will also move, generally, they don't stay with marijuana, they move on to more destructive drugs. Parents, grade school kids will tend to take their parents' marijuana, and there's proof of that in the report I handed out. If you don't believe me, look it up for yourself, the negative impact of recreational marijuana. Please vote no on the matching grant for the playground at McCarty Park. Let's leave it like it is, beautiful. And please take proactive steps and do not sell recreational marijuana in Aurora. The price is way too high, as I've shown on the selected sheets I handed out. Thank you.
Next speaker, clerk.
Michael Ox.
Mr. Ox, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. First of all, this is not a presentation about any complaints. It's a presentation about information. First of all, in August of 2018, I came here and presented asking for help for Andover Drive for the ComEd easement that was suddenly not being maintained anymore, even though quite a few years prior we had a homicide on our street. And I want to thank you again very much for the quick action. I believe it was within 2 weeks the ComEd honored their agreement with us and mowed down that property. In April of 2019, I came here with my daughter just to say thank you for what you did. It was fantastic. It was really appreciated. I'm back, and the property has not been touched this entire summer. We've fallen through the cracks again. Again, this is not a complaint. This is information, but it is my backyard, and I have a 10-year-old daughter. So I'm simply asking, can you please help? On to a subject change. I'm on to a topic that I could not talk about before for reasons that'll become clear. At this point, my ex has now moved out of the house, and I feel much more comfortable stating that domestic violence and domestic abuse does happen to men too. On August 22nd, I reported the abuse that had happened to Officer Contreras at Aurora Park at Aurora Police Department, which was a very difficult thing to do. What was more difficult was living there, being so aware of things happening that when you hear the tone change in a person and you know, here it comes. One time I actually recorded it, the entire 44-minute incident. And the most difficult part was going back, reliving it by having to type up the transcript of it so I could present that and make it simple for the Aurora Police Department to review. It was very, very difficult to get Officer Contreras to even want to listen to me. He did finally write up said that he would take a report, and I've heard nothing since. And yesterday, the 23rd, I spoke to a detective in the domestic violence department who said that when I barely when I got out the door, he had already closed the case, saying there's no evidence. I came back today to talk with her, as was talked about, planned. I got there at 3:35. They closed at 4. I sat down and waited, and they called me over at 3:40 to say, I'm sorry, but there's no one there. And I said, but I was supposed to talk to somebody there. Oh yeah, they leave at 4 o'clock. And I said, well, it is 3:40. Yeah, here 3 o'clock means, or 4 o'clock means 3:40. So they're already gone.
Thank you, sir. Your 3 minutes is up.
Thank you.
Clerk, do you have an additional speaker?
No further speakers, Mayor.
Thank you. Well, I will go on to the next portion of the agenda. Public hearing. Can you read the first item under public hearing, Clerk?
19-0858. A public hearing on the City of Aurora's proposed memorandum of understanding between the City of Aurora, King County, and the City of Elgin, application for participation in the 2019 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, and to designate Aurora's funds towards the Aurora Police Department for equipment and policy maintenance. Legistar File 19-0771.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard for the purpose of public comment on this item? Seeing no additional persons wishing to be heard,
Second.
we got a motion to close by Alderman Hart-Burns, second by Alderman Franco. The hearing is adjourned. Can you read the next item under public hearing?
19-0755. A public hearing pursuant to the Special Service Area Tax Law on the proposed establishment of Special Service Area Number 199, Alden of Waterford, vacant land, 1865 Audra Circle, Aurora, Illinois, King County.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard for the purpose of public comment on this item? There's been a motion to close, seeing no one that wants to be heard by Alderman Hart-Burns, second by Alderman Franco. The hearing is hearing is adjourned. I'm sorry. All in favor? I'm sorry. We need a roll call. Actually, we need a roll call on both of those. Let's go back up to 19-0858. Clerk, can you call the roll on that one? That was the JAG for the Aurora Police Fund toward Aurora Police Officers for equipment and policy maintenance.
Sure.
Call the roll on that.
Alderman Garza?
Yes.
Alderman Masiacos?
Yes.
Alderman Franco?
Yes.
Alderman Seville?
Yes.
Alderman Hart-Burns?
Yes.
Alderman Smith? Alderman Bug?
Yes.
Alderman Lopshi?
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins?
Yes.
Alderman O'Connor?
Yes.
10 ayes.
All right. The hearing is adjourned. Can you call the roll on 19-0755 for the special service tax?
Alderman Garza?
Yes.
Alderman Masiacos?
Yes.
Alderman Franco?
Yes.
Alderman Seville?
Yes.
Alderman Hart-Burns? Alderman Smith? Alderman Bug?
Yes.
Alderman Lopshi?
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins?
Yes.
Alderman O'Connor?
Yes.
10 ayes.
All right. The hearing is adjourned. Can you read the next item under public hearing?
19-0756. A public hearing pursuant to the Special Service Area Tax Law on the proposed establishment of Special Service Area Number 200, Scientel Solutions, vacant land, 2021
Second.
North Eola Road, Aurora, Illinois, DuPage County.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard for the purpose of the public comment on this item? Seeing no additional person wishing to be heard, there's been a motion to close by Alderman Hart-Burns, second by Alderman Jenkins. Will you call the roll, clerk, to close the public hearing?
Alderman Garza.
Yes.
Alderman Masiacos.
Yes.
Alderman Franco.
Yes.
Alderman Seville.
Yes.
Alderman Hartburns. Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Bug.
Yes.
Alderman Lopshi.
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins.
Yes.
Alderman O'Connor.
Yes.
10 ayes.
The hearing is hereby adjourned. Let's go on to mayoral appointments. Clerk, can you call the first item under mayoral appointments?
19-0709, a resolution reappointing Ed Barsati, Charlie Zine, and Doug Johnson to the Aurora Bicycle Pedestrian and
Second.
Transit Advisory Board.
Is Ed Barsati present? You want to stand up just for a second, sir, so we can say hi to you? Charlie Zine, is that present? Okay, and Doug Johnson? All right. Hold on just a second. Let's give them a round of applause. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Second.
All right. There's been a motion made by Alderman Hartburn, seconded by Alderman O'Connor. I am so sorry, brother. I might need this. Look at the side. Mayor Pro Tem Alderman O'Connor. There being no further questions, can the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Garza.
Yes.
Alderman Masiacos.
Yes.
Alderman Franco.
Yes.
Alderman Seville.
Yes.
Alderman Hartburns. Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Bug.
Yes.
Alderman Lopshi.
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins.
Yes.
Alderman O'Connor. 10 ayes.
Motion carries. Resolution is approved. And one more round of applause. Gentlemen, if you'll meet me right down front so we can take pictures.
You're not there.
All right, clerk, can you read the next item under mayoral appointments?
19-0757, a resolution appointing December Barnes to the Aurora Youth.
Second.
Is December present? Well, hello, how are you doing? All right, there's been a motion made by Alderman Hartburn, seconded by Alderman Garza. Alderman Garza. I just didn't hear who's coming down. I'm having one of those days. Are there any question or discussion about this resolution? There being no further questions, will clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Garza.
Yes.
Alderman Masiacos.
Yes.
Alderman Franco.
Yes.
Alderman Seville.
Yes.
Alderman Hartburns. Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Bug.
Yes.
Alderman Lopshi.
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins.
Yes.
Alderman O'Connor.
Yes.
10 ayes.
All right, motion carries. Resolution approved. Let's give her a round of applause. All right, that's in our mayoral appointments. So the clerk, please read the consent agenda in full.
19-0726, a resolution authorizing the Director of Purchasing to enter into an agreement with Rush Power Systems LLC for preventative maintenance of the City of Aurora's lift station and shop emergency generators. 19-0727, a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Aurora and the Village of Montgomery. 19-0746, a resolution authorizing a master license agreement between the city and Chicago SMSA Limited Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless to facilitate the installation of small cell wireless facilities on city structures within public rights-of-way pursuant to the Small Wireless Facilities Deployment Act. 19-0751, a resolution authorizing annual action plan substantial amendment 2019-2 to allocate 2018 emergency solutions grant ESG funding in the amount of $126,000 to Public Action to Deliver Shelters, PADS, otherwise known as Hesed House. 19-0763, a resolution awarding the Trask Street, North Laux Street, and North Kendall Street sanitary sewer CIPP lining contract to Michael's Pipe Service, a division of Michael's Corporation, 817 Main Street, P.O. Box 128, Brownsville, Wisconsin, 53006, in the amount of $169,363.00. 19-0767, a resolution authorizing the Director of Purchasing to execute a change order to the existing contract with L.J. Morse Construction Company, 128 South Broadway, Aurora, Illinois, 60505, in the amount of $49,123.41 for additional services required to renovate the second floor bridge within the Development Services Center located at 77 South Broadway. 19-0770, a resolution to award a contract to H. Linden and Sons Sewer and Water Incorporated in the amount of $68,830 for the 2019 driveway, sidewalk, and drainage improvements project. 19-0771, a resolution authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Aurora, Kane County, and the City of Elgin, the participation in the 2019 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, JAG program, and the use of the City of Aurora's portion towards the Aurora Police Department equipment purchase. 19-0774, a resolution authorizing the City of Aurora to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the City of Aurora Police Department and the Illinois National Guard Counter Drug Task Force. 19-0779, a resolution approving consulting agreements with Kane McKenna and Associates to conduct tax increment financing eligibility studies for the Avalon Heights and Fox Valley Mall areas at a not to exceed cost of $82,000. 19-0781, a resolution establishing amusement fees charged by the City of Aurora. 19-0782, an ordinance vacating a water easement to the city on the property located at 808 North State Route 59 and 724 North State Route 59 in DuPage County, Aurora, Illinois, 60504. 19-0793, a resolution establishing the maximum number of Class R City of Aurora liquor licenses unofficially related to application from the Two Brothers Roundhouse, Incorporated, doing business as Two Brothers Artisan Spirits, located at 205 North Broadway, Aurora, Illinois. 19-0795, a resolution authorizing the City of Aurora to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF, and the Aurora Police Department. 19-0799, a resolution authorizing the execution of a historic preservation grant agreement with Marcus and Jennifer Contaldo for 77 South View Street. 19-0800, a resolution authorizing the execution of a historic preservation grant agreement with Todd and Aaron Spencer for 102 North View Street. 19-0801, a resolution authorizing the execution of a historic preservation grant agreement with Ilda Valdez for 112 South 4th Street. 19-0802, a resolution authorizing the execution of a historic preservation grant agreement with Ann and Thomas Ringrose for 203 North View Street. 19-0803, a resolution authorizing the execution of a historic preservation grant agreement with George Padkin and Susan Kubria for 204 South Lincoln Avenue. 19-0804, a resolution authorizing the execution of a historic preservation grant agreement with Jean and Mike McKee for 325 Sunset Avenue. 19-0805, a resolution authorizing the execution of a historic preservation grant agreement with Jason Redelman for 351 Lawndale Avenue. 19-0806, a resolution authorizing the execution of a historic preservation grant agreement with Laura L. Perry for 415 Oak Avenue. 19-0807, a resolution authorizing the execution of a historic preservation grant agreement with Jordan Jeffries for 424 West New York Street. 19-0808, a resolution authorizing the execution of a historic preservation grant agreement with Weston Trevor McMacken for 435 West New York Street. 19-0809, a resolution authorizing the execution of a historic preservation grant agreement with Ariana Romaldo for 437 East Downer Place. 19-0810, a resolution authorizing the execution of a historic preservation grant agreement with Oscar Aceves for 453 Iowa Avenue. 19-0811, a resolution authorizing the execution of a historic preservation grant agreement with Ramon Prado Jr. for 518 Oak Avenue. 19-0812, a resolution authorizing the execution of a historic preservation grant agreement with Donna L. Rubar for 702 Palace Street. 19-0824, an ordinance amending the Business District Retailer's Occupation Tax Rate, the Business District Service Occupation Tax Rate, and the Hotel Operator's Occupation Tax Rate imposed in Ordinance 19-058 within the boundaries of the Aurora Business District Number 1, Pacifica Square Business District.
Are there any questions or motions to remove the items from the consent agenda? There being none, there's been a motion to approve by Alderman Hart Burns, seconded by Alderman Jenkins. Are there any questions? There being no further questions, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Garza.
Yes.
Alderman Masiacos.
Yes.
Alderman Franco.
Yes.
Alderman Seville.
Yes.
Alderman Hart Burns. Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Bug.
Yes.
Alderman Lopshi.
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins.
Yes.
Alderman O'Connor.
Yes.
10 ayes.
Motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. Let's go on to unfinished business. Clerk, will you read the first item under unfinished business?
19-0742, a resolution authorizing the Aurora Division of Parks and Recreation to apply for a $109,000 grant from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources for improvements at McCarty Park.
So moved.
Been a motion by Alderman Garza, seconded by Alderman Jenkins. Are there any questions or discussion regarding this resolution?
Mayor,
Alderman Lofty.
as I said last week, I have no problem repairing fountains that are used in the summer. I also have no problem purchasing playground equipment. As I question whether this is the best location, for there's a park a few blocks away with playground equipment. I had a client that owned a couple apartment buildings next door. I drive by that park almost every day on the way to work. I know the area pretty well. In 2008, Wayside Cross Mission did a capital campaign until 2015 to build a new building adjacent to their property a couple blocks away from McCarty Park. Wayside, as we heard tonight, has been in Aurora 92 years, and they're a good citizen. I volunteered there many times. I know they have a youth ministry, 5 other ministries. Their website says they will serve 273,000 meals this year. I know they serve thousands of people trying to get their life back together, including one of, or maybe only, Aurora's only female shelter called LifeSpring, which I know Alderman Burns has been part of. This is about supporting a Christian ministry that helps people turn their life around. It's about not making it difficult for Wayside to serve people that are trying to help redeem themselves. We cannot make it hard for Wayside to help the people they serve. Many of the people on the city council voted to give Wayside variances and expand their building years ago. And now we should not be blind to what could happen if we just go full steam ahead with this grant. It's not fair to a long-standing, highly thought of Christian ministry. We've heard from many clergy tonight that support Wayside. We've heard from volunteers like Mike, and Sharon, Marianne Vincent. I've been here 23 years. Sharon said she's been here 63 years. I've never heard of a problem with Wayside. When I started Streetwise Homeless Organization in 1992 in Chicago, we had a problem. No one wanted to rent us space. It's not normally popular to be a large service organization like Wayside that ministers to the poor. We had to move Streetwise several times, and moving is rough. I can personally relate to this. Putting a brand new shiny park next to Wayside might tempt some of the individuals. Rather, maybe we should spend money on the park a few blocks east. And I also believe, putting on my lawyer hat, that the city would have some potential liability here by doing this. There's a doctrine called attractive nuisance. It basically says The owner of a property, which would be the city in our case owning the park, is liable to injury to children if the injury is caused by an object on the land likely to attract the children. The doctrine is designed to protect children who are unable to understand the risk. I've asked for a budget and I did not get anything concrete. So what I'm asking for is assurance from the staff that all playground equipment be placed on the far east side of the park. The city does not ever designate this as a playground for small children. And that they come back through if we do approve this tonight, which I'm okay with approving the money for fixing the fountains, but if it's $80,000 to fix the fountains, I'd rather take $80,000 and maybe build new fountains a few blocks away to the east. And as we heard from Marianne Vincent, who's going to pay for the $109,000 that the city's going to spend on this? We don't really have a budget. We don't really know what we're doing. We haven't gone out to bid, and I'm not in favor of this.
Does anybody else need Alderman Garcia?
Well, first thing, we don't have the money yet. It's just we don't know if we want to have the money, okay? Second thing, I think misunderstanding to make a playground in McCarthy Park. We're not talking about exactly playground. It's a playground already there across the street and the daycare facility. And it's very close to West Side still. But our project with McCarthy Park, we spent, like city and Second Ward Farm, $650,000 when we're remodeling the park. And we do only phase one. Now, the last year, 2 years ago, they start having problems with the big pump, with the fountain. So last year in August, they ordered the part, or I'm wrong, or I'm right, here is Geo. So they waiting for the new part to come in to work the fountain. Kids desperate to have the fountain in there. So it's a really need for our community, for our neighborhood park in there to have the fountain. This is the most thing. If we have the money, because we don't have it yet, I don't know why we make a big deal, because we don't have it yet. We just want to apply. We're not guaranteed if we want to have it or not. But if we have it, great, to fix the fountain, to fix the problem we have in there, because we already have problems, right? So they need to fix the pump and order a new one to have at least the splash for the kids. And I'm going to Phyllis Park to there and paying $20 for each kid. When the families have 4 kids or 5 kids, to pay $20 for each kid is a lot. And go to McCarthy Park for free, at least have wet and refresh. So I don't know why they say no to that. And the first thing, we don't have the money yet. So why they make that big discussion on that? This is only for apply for the grant.
Any other questions or discussion? Alderman Harburns?
Just a clarification. When Wayside Life Spring begun many years ago, yes, I was involved. The city owned the property, and I had the pleasure of working with the president at that time to make sure that we secured a place for the women's to go to. We did do the application, we did the paperwork, and it was granted for Wayside to have Life Springs. That was my involvement. I was able to help secure the location for the women, the property that the city owned over on College. I've never been there just to speak to the women, but I've never been a resident or anything of that nature. But I do feel at this time that this grant that we're applying for McCarthy Park, it is a grant. We apply for grants for some of everything, and I think this is something that the aldermen want for that area. We need to secure this grant. The playground equipment, we don't know where it's going to go, but I'm told it will be east. That's all I know. It will be east. So in hearing that, I think that in our vote on tonight, we're voting for a grant. Simple as that. We're voting for a grant, and we vote for grants all the time. May not know where things going to go, but a grant is just that. It's money that we're seeking for. I'm looking for us to get it.
Any other questions or comments? Alderman Buck.
Just point of reference to staff.
Your mic.
If we apply for and obtain this grant, won't this come back through the regular committee channels, and we will address playground equipment and other things at that time?
That is correct. Each of the purchases that would come before you would be greater than $25,000. So every portion of this grant, we would come forward to the council again.
Okay. And at that time, we'll know exactly where the playground equipment is going?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Alderman O'Connor.
First of all, let me identify myself again.
I had to look at your note.
No, well, you got it here. Alderman Bug just said something that I was going to try to pick up on, and that is the fact that this is the first part of a several-part procedure, and that we still have opportunities to understand what we're doing with this and how it's going to be laid out and what parts it all plays together. Because I have some concerns about it, I will vote yes to apply for the grant, but that still leaves a couple issues that we still have the opportunity to talk about at a later time. One of those things that's kind of swirling around is really the position of the actions or contemplated actions in regard to Wayside Cross. We don't know exactly where that all is at this point. I think we need some more time for clarification on all of that. Secondly, I've heard from a number of people that they're very concerned in the location and making sure that we have very adequate protection in regard to the crossing situation. The best way to do it possible, these are two very busy streets. We know that it's existed for some time now, and I don't think we've had any problems, but that doesn't say with more people coming, with more children playing there, that we should not be very concerned with the manner in which people get into that park and be very careful about that. That's another consideration that we're going to be able to meet in a little while in talking about this whole situation. This is not a final situation. In that sense, I always hate to not take the opportunity to get grants because the city of Aurora has been extremely successful in being able to get them. And by refusing to apply for grants, I think that sets a direction at the state sometimes that we may not be the most appropriate city to look at. But that doesn't change the fact that there are other issues out here that still have to be looked at, and I think we have ample opportunity to discuss those. So we'll await that. As I say, I will vote in favor of getting this going at least so we can see what we can do down the road.
Any other questions or comments? With none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Garza?
Yes.
Alderman Masiacos?
Yes.
Alderman Franco?
Yes.
Alderman Seville?
Yes.
Alderman Hartburns?
Yes.
Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Bug?
Yes.
Alderman Lopshi?
No.
Alderman Jenkins?
Yes.
Alderman O'Connor?
Yes.
9 ayes.
Motion carries. The resolution is approved. Clerk, can you read the next item under unfinished business?
19-0785, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Aurora by the addition of chapter 44 imposing a municipal adult recreational cannabis retailer's occupation tax.
There's been a motion by Alderman Jenkins, seconded by Alderman Franco, and I believe as far as discussions, I believe Alderman Franco has the discussion.
Well, at the committee of the whole, I was a big proponent of pushing for the 3% as opposed to 2% that was proposed here. After further review and based on where we're at with the taxing as a taxing body, our 2% as proposed here is in essence a 3.25% tax, which we knew mathematically. But my concern was, is this going, if we don't go for the 3% as opposed to the 2%, are we losing money? Are we not capturing the money that we could get on tax? But it was also pointed out, and this is for me, I'm kind of back in the 2% idea that in order to attract the right type of cannabis developers, those are going to sell, and they're not all created equal. We would have a better chance of getting the high end, the best performing, the best and the brightest, in essence, of those people that are going to do it if we keep the tax at a reasonable rate for competitive reasons. Because at 3.25%, we're basically more than everybody else that'll be at 3% because of the home rule of 1.25. So in that vein, in order to try to attract the best, and once we get them here, we're going to have them for a number of years. So if we ever want to go from 2 to 3%, we could get there gradually. That kind of changed my mind on that. So I kind of went back and forth, but I think based on trying to get the best here, I think that 2% is appropriate for this particular situation.
Any other questions, comments? Alderman.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to further expound also upon my comments for the committee of the whole on this 3% tax. As we all know, this city council and past city councils have been very pro-business over the years, based on the individual merits of a particular development. We've looked at a plethora of incentives, sales tax rebates, property tax rebates, TIF incentives, River Edge tax credits, and the like. I can go on and on and on. But each one is based on the merits of the development, not on a blanket incentive. So I would propose an amendment that we change it to the 3% excise tax. And again, we would take a look at each individual incentive to look at the merits of a development rather than a blanket overall incentive from the get-go without even knowing about the particular development, even if they need it or not. I think going from the start from a 3% to a 2% is really selling our city short. We are the second largest city in the state of Illinois, and I think we should present ourselves as such and consider it again on a case-by-case basis. So that's what I propose as an amendment.
Any other questions? So
I'll second that amendment.
Council,
At this point, we'd have to do a motion to amend.
there's been a motion for an amendment made by Alderman Seville, seconded by Alderman Lofty.
And then any further discussion?
Any further discussion on this particular amendment? Mr. Alderman O'Connor.
Could we have a clarification as to the exact wording of the amendment? What are we simply changing the 2% to the 3%, or some additional language in there?
I would assume it's sufficient, and I would defer to legal to change it just from 2% to 3%.
And I have a copy, if you give me a second, that I can pass around for everyone to look at, which changes it from 2% to...
But it's as simple as changing it from 2% to 3%. There's no real language needed other than changing the percentage. Mr. Alexandru, can you step forward for a second?
Mr. Mayor, if I can ask a question as he's coming up. So I guess, Alderman Seville, so you just want to go from 2% to 3%, but did you just mention about like each individual one is different? So I think I misunderstood. So some could be at 2.75, I mean, I didn't quite understand. It was just a blanket 3? Okay, because I thought maybe you're looking at individual dispensaries being different depending on where they're at.
Yes, I would look at it. My amendment is for a blanket 3%. However, as each development, assuming we receive development opportunities, we would base on the merits of each particular proposal, just like we do across the board. For example, we just recently adopted the incentives for the Hobbs building. We've also included the incentives for the Keystone building, the Terminal building. Well, there's a plethora of developments over the decades that we've looked at based upon its merits rather than just a blanket across the board. That's what I'm proposing. We look at it individually when the time comes.
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman O'Connor.
In part, this is going to be an evening explaining the mysteries of legislation and how you can feel one way and have a philosophy and a policy, and yet you vote to sound like you're supporting something. Now, I'm going to have some other comments about the cannabis when we come to the other issue in regard to the zoning. On this issue, my suspicion is that this is an industry that isn't going to need any incentives. I think from everything that we're aware of, there are a number of companies that are obviously quite anxious to get going, to get in, as it's been pointed out, the second largest city, if we in fact have licenses granted by the state in the city. So I see no reason in this particular situation. I voted for incentives, actually, as Alderman Seville has mentioned on many of the developments that we're going through, for the reasons of what is happening individually there. I don't think as a basis across the board that this industry or any developer in a business needs any type of additional incentive. So I would vote no on the amendment anyway, even though I may have still different feelings about the entire policy. So,
Alderman Herbert. Well, I don't know that it would be legal. It would be finance. So Either Mr. Alexandra or Marty to explain.
Well, I think as we talked about at COW, staff's purpose in doing its research and working with finance to recommend the 2% versus a 3% was really predicated on no incentives per se, but more of looking at the competitive landscape. So if the city council decided to opt in, what position would the city be placed in vis-a-vis any of the other surrounding communities that also decided to opt in? So we were not looking at this as staff was for opting in or not. We simply were trying to bring the information forward, and IML has chimed in and said, again, because of so many factors that are still uncertain, unknown with the Illinois Department of Revenue and others, that the suggestion there was to start at the more conservative 2% approach. In addition, we are a home rule community, so we have already at 2% the 1.25% home rule. In addition to that, we would be also acquiring our share of the 1% state tax. So right off the bat, you're at 4.25. In addition, the counties have the ability to provide up to a 3% tax. Now, we are in 4 different counties. So we, again, we're trying simply from a city perspective to give you the opportunity, if you decided to opt in, where we would give put the city at the most competitive position to attract these competitive retailers. So we never really looked at it from an incentive perspective. It was really from a competitive vantage point.
And just to be clear, Mr. Lyons, can we charge different dispensaries a different level of tax?
No.
So everybody would have
That's
to...
a legal question, but no. Mr. Mayor, though, just one point on the, as part of the development team, we always want tools in the toolbox. We can address this on a long-term basis with our ability to amend the tax. And Alderman Seville, I appreciate that effort to have something as a development tool, an incentive. Most of our development agreements are longer term, where we have a 10-year deal or something of that nature. If we were in a situation that we needed to have an incentive, the agreement could be structured that we would go up 0.25% every 6 months for 2 years, and we would be at 3%, and then that could stay that way for 8-10 years to take care of an incentive. Or if we were front funding something to pay us back for something that we were wanting to front fund with a site improvement or something like that, we'd have the revenue mechanism to do it. If we wanted to amend within 2 years, we'd be delayed. Not unlike when we do a TIF, it takes us a while for us to get it in place. So I do appreciate the concept of having that ability, and either way we do it.
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Jenkins.
As I said at committee of the whole, what's the rush? This is a new industry that's going to be created. It is something that the way it is being predicted, that it will continue to grow and to develop. We already have an item in our toolbox, the home rule, which other communities around us do not have. And so let's play it cool, let's be calm, we'll get there, and let's take this with the advantage we already have and not rush. We don't need to be greedy. We're going to get ours, and we're going to get more. So I would be voting no on this amendment.
Alderman Bug.
Thank you. We're all learning this new landscape of this topic, and some of us had the pleasure to go to IML this past weekend and look up a little bit about it, learn a little bit more. It's the competitive edge that Mr. Alexander was talking about. And with our neighbors to the north, and from what I'm trying to fully understand what was going on with our neighbors to the east, but since they have a medical marijuana dispensary, and they have decided at this time to opt out, but they're putting it to a referendum. My understanding, talking to a councilman over there, is that dispensary still has a first right of refusal because they're medical, they're there already, they're established. If they, by referendum, come back, they will have the opportunity, that dispensary, to set up shop there. So we need to come into this in a good foot, competitively. We already know that we do not currently have a medical dispensary, and in that light, our neighbors do have a little bit of an advantage over us. So we cannot come into this shooting for the moon and possibly missing the whole target. So I will be voting no, and I would recommend my colleagues follow suit.
Yeah, I was at IML and I did take some class on marijuana. I really don't think that, just Googling what an average purchase is at a retail store, it's like $30. If we're talking about 1%, that's like 30 cents. So I just don't think that someone's gonna not go to Aurora. They're gonna drive to North Aurora or wherever else for an extra 30 cents. First of all, I don't think anyone's gonna even know what the sales tax is. I mean, I think people go to different cities for like car purchases or big ticket purchases when, our sales tax is 10 and theirs is 8 or something. But there is so much money in this.
Alderman Lofty, you're talking about the wrong part of the transaction. We're not talking about the individual that's actually purchasing. We're talking about the dispensary and the competitive nature.
Yeah, well, that's like saying at a retail store, if one store charges 10% sales tax and Naperville's 9%, that people are going to flock to Naperville for a pack of cigarettes. I mean, I don't agree with that. I don't think it's logical, and I honestly think there's so much money in it, and it's going to be so great, for someone to get a dispensary that people are going to go there. I really do, and I also think that. Just like cigarettes, we tax them if we want to. I mean, I think there's plenty of people that are concerned, including myself, about usage. So if we have higher taxes, maybe we'll get less usage. So I think 3%, I don't think it matters at all. I think we are $950 million in debt, and I think we could use all the money we could get. So I don't think it's going to affect anything. So I would vote yes for the 3%. And you really, you really could have a little courtesy. It's like one Aurora, except for anybody who comes against you. You demean us. It's just ridiculous. It's pathetic.
You're just funny. That's all. I can't get mad at you no more. I just laugh. So anyway, anybody else have any other questions or concerns? Alderman Smith.
Wrong button. So I'm going to be voting in favor of the 2%, and reason being is Aurora has worked really hard and come a very long ways to change our brand, to make us the city that we are today and to be one Aurora. We need to keep our brand, and we want, if we choose to opt in, we want the best of the best facilities. That 2% and that 3% to those people that are purchasing these industries is huge. It's not 30 cents. It's huge. It's millions of dollars per year for them. So if we choose to opt in, the 2% will give us the competitive edge in the world of cannabis. So I will be choosing the 2%.
Any other questions? None. Clerk, want to call the roll? I'm sorry, on the amendment. We're just voting on the amendment. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is on the motion to vote on Alderman Seville's amendment to change the 2% to 3%.
A vote yes would be changing it to 3%. A vote no would be keeping it 2%.
Alderman Garza?
No.
Alderman Masiacos?
No.
Alderman Franco? Alderman Seville?
Yes.
Alderman Hart Burns? Alderman Smith?
No.
Alderman Bug? Alderman Lopshi?
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins?
No.
Alderman O'Connor?
No.
2 ayes, 8 nays.
All right, so the amendment fails. So let's go back to the actual vote on the ordinance itself. Are there any questions or concerns, any additional questions or comments on that? With none, clerk, will you call the roll?
Alderman Garza.
Yes.
Alderman Masiacos.
Yes.
Alderman Franco.
Yes.
Alderman Seville.
Yes.
Alderman Hartburns.
Yes.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Bug.
Yes.
Alderman Lofsche.
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins.
Yes.
Alderman O'Connor.
No.
9 ayes, 1 nay.
Motion carries. Resolution is approved. Or ordinance is adopted. So let's go on to the next item under unfinished business.
19-0820, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a contract for the sale of approximately 25.135 acres of real property located south of Mattel Road and east of Aurora Ave in the city of Aurora to the Illinois State Toll Highway Authority in the amount of $6,000,000 and authorizing the city's officers and employees to complete the contemplated transaction.
Been a motion by Alderman Hartburn, second by Alderman Garza. Any question or discussion regarding this ordinance?
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Jenkins.
at committee of the whole, I made the recommendation to not put this on a consent agenda, but I had the opportunity to discuss the situation regarding this with staff. Back when I served as Economic Development Director, there was some things that we were working on, and I was unaware of some of the things that were going on currently. So it was answered to my satisfaction, so I would be voting in favor of this.
Any other questions or comments? There being none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Garza.
Yes.
Alderman Masiacos.
Yes.
Alderman Franco. Alderman Seville.
Yes.
Alderman Hartburns. Alderman Smith. Alderman Bug.
Yes.
Alderman Lofsche.
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins.
Yes.
Alderman O'Connor.
Yes.
10 ayes.
Motion carries. The ordinance is adopted. Can you read the next item under unfinished business?
19-0823, a resolution authorizing a redevelopment agreement between the City of Aurora and JH Real Estate Partners for the redevelopment of the 2 through 4 North River Street, commonly known as the Hobbs
Second.
Building, and 6 through 12 North River Street.
There's been a motion by Alderman Hartburn, second by Alderman Garza. Are there any questions or discussions regarding this resolution? Alderman O'Connor.
I had asked this be put on unfinished, not because I had any difficulty with it, because we did recommend it in the Finance Committee. I think the elements of this one are a little bit different from a couple of the previous development agreements that we've done, so I wanted a complete opportunity for everyone to understand how this was somewhat different in both the grant and the loan, the timings involved on this, and the fact that we do have, I think, in very important part of this, a developer that has met the challenge of presenting pro formas that we can accept, and obviously already involved in development, particularly in downtown Aurora, that would lend a lot of credit to their ability to carry out the job. So I have no opposition. I have no suggestions for any changes. Simply wanted this to be given a little extra time for everybody to take a look at. So I'll vote certainly in favor of it.
Are there any other questions or comments? Being none, clerk, will you call the roll?
Alderman Garza.
Yes.
Alderman Masiacos.
Yes.
Alderman Franco.
Yes.
Alderman Seville.
Yes.
Alderman Hartburns. Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Bug.
Yes.
Alderman Lofsche.
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins.
Yes.
Alderman O'Connor. 10 ayes.
Motion carries. The resolution is approved. Clerk, can you read the last item under unfinished business?
19-0796, a resolution initiating a public hearing to consider the revisions to Aurora zoning ordinance 3100 to section 3.3 definitions, section 4.3 special uses and structures, and table 1 use categories. And this was just discussion.
Discussion only. No action will be taken on this. Is there any discussion that anyone would like to have? This just opens up the public hearing. Alderman O'Connor.
As I tried to point out, and I think in the discussion in the BZE and also the committee of the whole, communities are handling the presentation of this in different ways. We're going at it in a couple different directions. We've already looked at one element in regard to the tax. We're looking at another element in regard to how it's zoned. The choice here, I think, is for people to have the opportunity to give us their opinion on the overall issue. It will be held in the setting of this public hearing on October 2nd. There would be no reason necessarily for the council to have a completely independent public hearing to talk about the same thing. So I understand for folks that the public hearing as part of the Plan Commission meeting is the opportunity to express themselves as to whether they think it's a good idea or not a good idea to be able to have recreational cannabis facilities in the city of Aurora if they're granted by the state in regard to the licensing. And I just wanted to clarify that.
I have one issue, Mayor.
Alderman Lofton.
Yeah, what we're proposing is a 100-foot distance requirement from grade school, middle school, alternative school, or high school. I just think that the public needs to know that that's 100 feet, and I think 500 feet, I think that's what Chicago Mayor Lightfoot is proposing, is a better number. And I also don't think we should have a store downtown Aurora. I think we've got a lot of momentum, and I don't think that's a good idea.
Mr. Mayor?
Who was that? Oh, Alderman Frank. Your hand was over your mouth.
I would say, yes, this, if I have this correct, and staff can correct me on this is going to go to a public hearing, planning commission, then it'll go to BZE, then it'll go to committee hall, then it'll go to city council. So any of the nuts and bolts in this will be addressed at 4 different levels. So if we want to talk about that, that's going to be discussed anyway. So I understand what you're saying, Alderman Lopsky, but we will be tackling all that stuff if we decide to do so later on, once the planning commission goes.
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Buck.
Yeah, I just, I had a question earlier and I just wanted to get a final answer on that. So, because we took part of this from our medical marijuana when we put that ordinance into place. So exactly what were the numbers when we contemplated this 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago? Because it was not the numbers in this legislation text.
No, I believe the numbers were 1,500 feet, and if I remember correctly, that was by state statute. We are amending what we presented in the memo. We're having another meeting on internally this week on the matter, so we'll have that ready for plan commission. So we will have different measurements to propose.
Okay, 1,500 feet from what exactly?
From,
was it from parks? Was it from schools? Was it from churches?
I believe it was daycares, schools. I don't know if it was universities, without having the actual language in front of me. And churches. Yeah, possibly churches as well. The recreational cannabis was drafted differently than the medical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just wanted a starting off point. So we were 1,500 feet previously. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, well, that ends the discussion or that matter. I'll go on to requests and referrals listed on the agenda are referred to the Planning Council and Planning Commission. Is there a motion to accept and file the Treasurer's Report? There's been a motion by Alderman Hart Burns.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Seville. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried by voice vote. Is there a motion to approve and pay the bills? Motion made by Alderman Hart Burns, seconded by Alderman Jenkins. Are there any questions or discussions on the bills? All right, clerk, will you call the roll on the bills?
Alderman Garza.
Yes.
Alderman Masiacos. Yes. Alderman Franco. Alderman Seville. Yes. Alderman Hart Burns. Alderman Smith. Yes. Alderman Bug. Yes. Alderman Lopshy.
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins.
Yes.
Alderman O'Connor. Yes. 10 ayes.
All right, motion carries. Bills are approved and will be paid. There's been a motion to adjourn by Alderman Hart Burns, seconded by Alderman Franco. Oh.
Yeah.
Didn't we vote on that one? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a motion to accept and file the Treasurer's Report? I thought we did that. There's. So I'm sorry. What? So.
Don't you have to vote on it? One at a time? No? Oh, okay. We didn't hear it over here, but it's fine. Whatever.
Okay.
All right, there's been a motion to adjourn by Alderman Hartburn, seconded by Alderman Franco. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's been a long night.